sands! I tried to seek peace, and the Sycamores disgraced me. Left my corpse to rot in the sand.
Welcome back, you filthy exiles. So I thought I'd do something a little different. I haven't uploaded in a few days, and that's because I've been leveling up what I like to call my Terry Crews build. Now, I do like the Expendables movies, at least the first 2 or 3. So yeah, I was just like, why not? Let's make a cool build. And if you want to see more themology behind my builds based on action movies, let me know, because there is some pretty cool stuff in PoE 2 that allows you to do this thing. So basically the idea behind this build, just to sort of summarize in totality, is I had enough of playing other classes that weren't working, so I decided to go with my favorite ascendancy, which is the Smith of Kitava. Why? Because I can totally cap resistances by level 42, actually by like level 35. And that's based on the ascendancy point, which is called Coal Stoker. And then basically we use the Tantalum alloy. And basically we then put leather bindings on. So we have stupid levels of regeneration, stupid levels of fire res, and then we synergize that up. Honestly, this is the best kit in almost any ascendancy, arguably, outside of like the Infernalist and the Lich. But yeah, no, so basically that's what we're doing. So essentially for like gearing, we don't need to really worry about resistances because all we're worried about is overcapping, and a lot of that can be achieved through the use of things like the Inferno class belt, and then of course obviously the ascendancy points, or not the ascendancy points, but the points on the tree, as well as ascendancy points, which is actually how we're going to deal with physical damage ultimately, which is using the fire conversion node, regeneration, coupled with flowing metal, and then it's going to be ridiculously tanky, and then we're just literally stacking stats on stack. Stats, I haven't decided yet if I want to use Heat of the Forge to do fire damage or fire spell on hit, or if I simply just want to overcap with fire resistance, or maybe I just want to throw like, you know, increased strength and then increased overall HP into this build. So I haven't really figured that out yet, and I'll get there eventually. But yeah, basically we're taking advantage of, again, another item which I hope they don't touch because there's no need to touch it. It's perfectly fine, is the Deepest Tower. So this comes online at level 45 or 46 int. Basically what this means is you can synergize with all of your like huge damage nodes such as Stars Align, all these little 30% increased damage nodes. Arguably, this should just be built into the skills, not like on the tree. But this does fix a lot of skills so that you can actually play them. And it's played on like, I think 46% of Smith builds right now to get damage up. Basically, this item is down to like 50 Exalt, being the Deepest Tower. So if you haven't tried it on your build, give it a shot on your build. You'll probably find that it will improve your build pretty drastically. The caveat to this is 50% reduced presence of area, and you can totally offset this easily by literally just chucking on 3 increased presence of area gems, and that will go back to full screen and Bob's your uncle done. Also included in this, you can run Ignite, which will obviously synergize with this build. So how does this build work, or how do I intend it to work? So we're going to use the Deepest Tower in combination with stacking Ignite in combination with Candlemaker gloves. I don't know if this is going to be endgame gloves yet, but we'll figure that out. Basically, it doubles your chance to Ignite. And we're also going to take advantage of Trample Toes, and we're going to use the overkill damage of our Herald of Ash to explode enemies. And I think I would have put some footage in there in the B-roll around that. And basically, we just stack on a huge DPS crossbow, continue to level the skill up, which the skill that we're using in this case is, where is it? Incendiary Shot. And then basically we do huge amounts of AoE, blow enemies up, and we have Pierce built into this as well, which means we shoot through enemies and just light whole entire packs up and then blow them to smithereens. That's basically the gist of the build. That's as simple as it gets. Now, a couple of things. I don't know if scaling Ignite is more effective than scaling Crit. I sort of somewhat expect Crit to be better, and we use Ignite to synergize damage. And the reason why we would do that would be, for example, these incendiary nodes, and also the node up here as well for fulmination. Basically, it just like gives you tons of damage against ignited enemies and ignites. I don't suspect that Ignite will actually be as effective as what it might sort of, what it could be. We're also going to switch and use Avatar of Fire on this setup. And beyond that, we'll probably go up and pick up Blood Magic, and we have so much regeneration that basically it'll cost nothing. And then, yeah, we're just going to overcap all of our resistances. We're going to use Made to Last as well. And we should be sufficiently tanky enough running armor and totally overcap reses to not have to do anything else. And thinking on that, we will likely need to run Forged in Flame and just overcap at 90, 90, 90 for all of our resistances and just call it a day. And then we literally just got to put Chaos Res and Fire Res on all of our items, and we just laugh at the enemy while we have tons of regeneration built into the build and damage. So a few other things. So there's this cluster here. Then we get an extra 100 and I think was that 150? That's 180% DPS on low life. So we're going to cut in here. We may even turn around and go and take unwavering stance so we can't be stunned when we sort of run around and shoot things. But I haven't decided yet, and obviously crushing verdict and stuff like that would work really well with this, and as many gem sockets as you can fit in. I don't think leech will be needed because we're going to regenerate at a stupid level, and obviously that you're running crossbows, so we'll run like instant reload and things like that to speed it up. And that's basically the build. It's just going to be running around, shooting incendiary shot at everything like a Chad, and blowing stuff up, with a secondary skill being artillery ballista, which will scale up and basically use that to do a lot of boss damage dealing. And I'm hoping this build works out being a not too bad build. Anyway, let's get into the gearing so far. This is at the end of Act 3, so we're in Act 1 Cruel. I thought I'd do build guides like this because then you can see the progress. There'll be a Mobalytics link in the description below and a POB as well. Anyway, let's get into the build breakdown. Okay, so from the gearing side right now, as the build currently is, basically we're running a Thrill Steel helmet. I just have one that I use on all my kit with a double socket. You don't have to have perfectly this one, but it's a good item to have, or any decent helm is going to be good ultimately. And then I have a really, really good 5x crossbow. That's all this costs now because it's pretty cheap on the market. I corrupted it up, got really lucky, and I'm just running like extra damage iron runes on it to get as much flat physical damage as possible, because we're converting physical damage to fire damage with incendiary shot. So we want to be able to do as much physical damage as possible to convert as much as possible. Rings and an amulet is just any other stats that you need to get you over the line. I've got mana leech and life leech and stuff like that, but it's really inconsequential. You just want attributes and resistances. Because we're running the smith, just literally steel plate. For now, this is perfectly fine, and make sure you corrupt it so you can get at least an implicit on it if you're lucky enough to roll that, and this will get us over the line for most of the campaign playthrough. By about level 24, you can get a really cheap Inferno clasp, and this is really good to have just so you can overcap your fire reses, and you get extra fire res and strength and all the rest of the good stuff. Now, I am playing around with Candlemaker's Candlemaker Somber Gloves. Again, really cheap item, like 1 elk. The big thing about this is chance to ignite is doubled, and the negative downside of the cold resistance is negated by the fact that it has 30 fire res, which is 15% cold res anyway for the Smith of Kitava. And we also do 29% at least, and yeah, that goes up to 40% fire damage. So these could potentially be pretty good gloves. Alternatively, we might get 2 to projectile gloves, I think we can get, potentially. That could also be a really good option there. Eventually, we want to switch this out for a few things. So basically, I've got Zoph's Blood, which we're going to try out in the build. And also, obviously, Deepest Tower at level 45. We'll switch the Thrill Steel out for, put a better crossbow on the build. And right now I'm unsure about whether Trample Toes is the ideal item to be using in this setup, but I want to see how scaling overkill damage with Herald of Ash would work, and if this would actually do a lot more damage. It potentially could, so I'm keen to try it. Now, the charms, I got really lucky with the Nagamu's Chosen Charms, just a really good charm to have. I got Topaz Charm and literally the Beer's Anguish because I had one in my stash, and it's just a cool item. If we could find a way to make this sort of synergistically work a lot better, then this could potentially be a really strong item as well, where we could have self-ignite, and I'm thinking potentially we may test out like Fire Flower, which does 100 fire damage when you ignite an enemy, which we could do, which if that fire damage doesn't ignite on us, then we could do a fire chain. It also gives us +3 to level of all fire skills as well. So that's actually a huge advantage for Incendiary Shot, because Incendiary Shot is a fire skill from what I can see here on the tag. So this will give us +3, which will give us a lot of extra damage. I haven't checked the damage scaling on Incendiary Shot, but I'd say once we've got a really good crossbow and once we've sort of upscaled everything, then this potentially is quite a good skill. And yeah, basically that's the idea behind all the gearing in the setup. You can do whatever you want with life flasks and mana flasks and all the rest of it, but yeah, that's my gearing on this so far. Okay, so that brings us to the skill setup. So we don't use the base crossbow shot. That's pretty useless to us. We're just running around with incendiary shot. And basically, it's like 4x for like a 5-link now greater jeweler's orb. So it's pretty cheap for a second build. So we're using double barrel. So we have an additional bolt loaded into our setup. We're also running wildfire, primal armament, and pierce. Now, I'm not too sure about double barrel. We're probably going to experiment with some damage modifiers, and if that works better, then that's probably better. And also 30% less reload speed isn't ideal either. Next, we have Herald of Ash and Magnified Effect. So this is what it is right now, and this is how we're stacking overkill damage, which is quite effective. This is very low level too. I didn't have another gem drop, so basically we're just using this. We then use Artillery Ballista. We're using Ironwood, Ancestral Urgency, and Overabundance, so we can have 2 of them. This actually does a lot of damage. It's pretty good. And we're trying out Scarred Scavenger as well, because potentially this can reload us quicker if we ignite an enemy and then we pull that ignite off the enemy. So basically we're trying this out too, but I'm not entirely convinced that this is actually worth it at this stage. We may do something else, may run another aura down the track. For skills, that's basically it. This is like a super simple setup without any real combinations. We're just going to be stacking a lot of tank ability, life regeneration, armor, stuff like that, and also overcap resistances, and then running around and blowing enemies up and igniting stuff, which is pretty satisfying so far. Okay, skill tree wise. So basically we're starting at the warrior starting area. Obviously we're playing a warrior here. So we come down, we're going to grab the Relentless node, and then we want to grab these nodes going up into Battle Hardened, back through Hard to Kill, come down, and we want to grab all these nodes around the enemy low life nodes. So Stars Align through to Finishing Blows. Now, currently we're testing to see if Dot works well enough with the Incendiary Shot. So we've got fast acting toxins and wasting. Wasting is really good because it gives you 30% increased damage with hits against enemies that are afflicted by ailments, which is a pretty good damage buff considering we're igniting enemies. So if you ignite an enemy, you're going to kill them way quicker. Then we come across and we also want to grab instant reload. This is giving us 40% increased crossbow reload speed plus 15-15, so that's 70% increased reload speed, which is making the build pretty proficient. I'm not entirely convinced that running the support gem that slows that down by 30% is better, and potentially just having 1 loaded in the barrel is good enough, but we're just going to have to test this out a little more, so I have a little bit of testing to do. Then we come down, we grab Emboldened Avatar. This is giving us 25% chance to ignite, which is pretty good. And then we're basically coming down. We've got a dual socket in here, and then we're going to come down and grab these boss skill nodes as well. I'm not convinced that running the crossbow nodes is actually better, but we may test this out just to go, you know, through these nodes here, down to reusable ammunition, and maybe down to power shots as well, and we may stack crit damage on that too. I didn't find attack speed to be that useful with crossbows. Like, there is a use for it, but reload speed is really what you want to have. Then we're going to come across, we're probably going to pick up Sand in the Eyes, and then we'll come across and get Authority. This will give us a bigger AoE, so we're going to go for big AoEs. And then we want to basically grab Incendiary up here. We want to grab Smoke Inhalation. We want to travel through these nodes here to max out Ignite and Fire Penetration. And then basically we want to come up here. We're going to go up and grab the Finality node up here. Then we'll come back across. We'll grab these Unnatural Resilience cluster nodes. Up here, we may grab the Brute Strength so we can stack a lot of strength, and then we basically do a damage dealer that strength stacks to a degree. Then we'll come up, we'll grab Made to Last, we'll get Avatar of Fire into Fulmination. We don't really need Overheating Blow at this stage. And then we'll come up, we'll probably grab this, we'll grab Blood Magic, and then we may go up into Primal Growth. I'm not entirely sure where we want to go with this yet, but we'll probably go up to Immolation as well. And we'll probably run Fireproof at some point, maybe just Immolation. I haven't fully decided. Then we might cut in and take the Bestial Rage nodes, or we might cut in and take the Burning Nature nodes as well, which gives us flat fire damage. But by that time, we'll be pretty, we'll be pulling for straws to get our any points in that part of the tree. We may also take in the thick of it and the Thrill of the Battle, and this is going to give us increased attack speed, armor, and attack damage when we're surrounded, because if we're surrounded with this build, it's probably going to be a problem. So that should give us a ton of AoE, attack speed, and survivability for when we need it. So yeah, that's basically the idea behind the tree. Now, as far as the Ascendancy goes, the first Ascendancy we actually took was Coal Stoker. Then the second Ascendancy becomes Smith's Masterwork. Third Ascendancy will likely be a setup of the fire damage, so Molten Symbol, and we're probably going to take Flowing Metal, and that's just going to overcap our reses and then convert 25% of our physical damage taken to fire damage, which will then synergize with overcapped reses, which is currently already at 79%. So with Flowing Metal and this node down here, and potentially the node up here where we can get more max fire res. That gets us to 90% really easily, and that means that 25% of our fizz damage goes against 90%. So we basically negate, you know, a good chunk of physical damage inbound, considering we're not running block or any other mechanics like that. We also probably want to consider running some regeneration, so we may take this node in here as well, and as much regeneration as we can kit in our gear. We may also come up and take this Hail Heart node too, which will give us increased regeneration too, and just stack as much life as possible. So that's probably going to be our defensive layering at this point. Regeneration, overcapped reses, and just doing enough damage that we don't need to worry too much about enemies hurting us, and increasing our life pool as much as we possibly can. But that's basically it for the pathing tree that I'm working with. This will all be in the POB and the Mobalytics link below. And yeah, that's basically where we're going with this build. Okay, so I'm pretty confident with this setup, and the reason being is running the deepest tower when the combination of Smith of Kitava just works, right? It's like the Todd Howard saying, it just works. Um, it's fun so far. It is definitely not a build I would recommend to start with because it's a bit rough, and just like the scaling on Incendiary Shot is pretty horrifically bad. But you know, I'm pretty confident we'll get this working and ticking through T15 and 16s and taking down pinnacle bosses. So that's basically what the goal is. Again, I just think Smith of Kitava is the best class in the game right now because it's lucrative. You can put damage items on and focus on damage while you're stacking up defenses, and it gives you the ability to stack up good defenses too. The other ascendancy I would consider with this would be the Titan, and the reason for that is just the scalability of all the small nodes using hulking form. And that's going to give you a ton of damage. Arguably, this wouldn't be as tanky on the Titan. You probably get 8 or 9k EHP, but you probably like one-shot stuff easily. And potentially you could stack up stuns as well with was a devastating hit or whatever it is, and basically use like a stun ignite or exposure setup or heavy stun setup with crossbows, and that could also be really good as well. Anyway, if you like this type of content, don't forget to like and sub to the channel. And I'll be trying to come out with some other new stuff over the next few days and weeks and whatnot. I am not done with PoE 2 at any way, in any way, shape, or form. There are plenty of other builds I want to try out. Probably just going to stick to the warrior for a little while and maybe do a Titan setup next or something like that. And just keep trying different stuff and learning different mechanics and stuff like that. Anyway, until next time, I'll see you guys later on and have a good one.